Today was media day for the Kentucky Wildcats, and after hearing from Coach Mark Pope, he seems pretty excited about his team for this season. That's going to be the conversation on today's episode of the Wildcats Today podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak, writer and editor over at Kentucky Wildcats on SI, joined as always by Manny Machado, Carson Nash, the best third baseman in slow pitch softball history. Carson, would you like to break down how the game went last night?
Yeah, we got a big 28-6 dub. It was a good team win. It was exciting. It was a fun time under the lights. Fall ball. It was nice.
It was an all around good game. You know, you and I we weren't squaring it up that well, but we put it where they weren't. We both hit one hard to end it. You know what I mean? And so we'll dial it in for next Monday. So we'll dial
the fielding was there. The
fielding was incredible. I mean, if Jake Newsel could throw a damn scoop, so I could have scooped one at first base to end the game, it'd been a lot better. But I mean, he's a Gold Glover, so it's fine. Carson, today was media day. We heard from Coach Pope, had a press conference. It was a really good one. I mean, every time I hear from him, I just like him more. You know, Coach Calipari was always, if it was supposed to be half an hour, he was getting out of there at 29 minutes and 30 seconds.
You got to go walk the dogs, see the dogs.
Coach Pope went, I think, about 37 minutes, and it was definitely supposed to be half an hour. He went about 7-8 minutes long, and it says a lot about him. I mean, he really, I like that a lot about him. But Carson, the first thing and we'll get to I have some questions from players and some things we heard from players. We'll get to that as well. But the first thing that stood out to me about Coach Pope in this press conference was he talked about how he heard a Japanese kind of like, I guess it was like a saying, whatever you want to call it. It was one of the big themes of the press conference. And it was talking a lot about keeping grounded and keeping your team kind of grounded. And it kind of wrapped into what I learned from what he was saying is this team, Coach Pope was able to bring this team together. And we talk about this a lot. In the transfer portal, it's not easy to bring a whole bunch of guys and put a basketball team together and have chemistry. And Coach Pope seems like he's done that. And it says a lot about him as a coach. And that's what really stood out to me in this press conference. And we'll get to the question that I asked him here in a minute. But, Carson, my question for you is this, is about that. When it comes to Coach Pope bringing this team together, what has impressed you about that when it comes to this season? And what does that make you feel for the future of this program under Coach Pope?
Yeah, I mean, well, it definitely makes me feel really good for the future. But I think for this season, it's really, really impressive to me because you've got guys coming from all over the country, from all new schools or they were played at old schools and are joining a team where they probably didn't even really know each other. They probably hadn't talked before they even stepped on campus, maybe a little bit, but they go onto campus and it feels like they clicked almost instantly, which is very, very hard to find. And Kentucky's struggled in the past with team chemistry. And I think that's part of the reason why we saw the decline of Kentucky and John Calipari. I'll stand by that, honestly. But I think it's huge. And I think Mark Pope really, really respects Kentucky, the state and the program and everything about it. And he's constantly teaching his kids, his players, I shouldn't say kids. Most of them are grown men. But
very true. Our age.
Yeah. But his players, he's teaching his players respect and to respect one another and the community. And I think that goes a long way with chemistry and team chemistry. And I think that's a huge thing for us.
No question. I think that it's just such an important part of basketball that people, if this season goes well for Kentucky, people are going to, because you're going to forget about the offseason and everyone's going to be wrapped up in the regular season, which is understandable. If this season goes well for Coach Pope and this basketball team, people are going to forget how he was able to put this all together in 3-4 months. And that is, he puts this team together quickly, and then he gets them to be a tight group. That's not easy to do. I mean, we've seen teams like this. You know, Musselman always tried to do it at Arkansas, and it was okay at times. It was awful at times. I think it's going to be successful for Coach Pope because I think he's doing the parts that matter more than basketball, and that's getting these guys to be tight off and on the floor to have that chemistry. So that was one of the things I took away from the press conference, Carson. But also on top of that, Coach Pope talked a lot about the leadership was a common theme. He talked a lot about the leaders. He loves having his players coach. And he talked some about that. I was really excited about that. I mean, I like the way that he coaches basketball. He also talked a lot about analytics. And I love this. So Zach Gagan from KSR, great dude. But he asked about Coach Pope about analytics and how much he really believes in analytics and all that. We know, obviously, he does a lot. But the question was kind of like, if you're up 3 points or you foul in a last few seconds, and he talked about like what goes into the analytics of his decisions. And to me, what I loved about that, and we could get into the nitty gritty of that conversation and analytics, and we could talk about that. But to me, the conversation for us, Carson, is more how substantial it is that his brain is always cooking and thinking about these things. And that's what I love about Coach Pope. So, I mean, is that something that you've noticed from watching him just early on in his career as the Kentucky coach?
Yeah, it seems to me like it, not even just on the court stuff. It seems like Pope is always trying to find a way to get ahead at all times. He wants to be the first to do everything. He wants to be the gold standard, which Kentucky is. And so him doing that and being all in on the analytics and like how he approaches the game and stuff like that, that's huge because it's not only is it going to help us win games, it's going to help us maintain being the best program in college basketball like we are.
Yeah, no question. I'm with you on that. I'm going to play my question to Coach Pope. Ladies and gentlemen, the audio on, I'm working so hard. I literally bought microphone. We're going to get to the bottom of it. It's not great. Bear with us here, but we're going to get to the bottom of it eventually. By the start of this, next time we have a press conference, it'll be after probably the first game. So I will get this dealt with by then. But so it's like we're the Godfather, Mike, when it comes to his Wildcats Today lock of the week. We need to get the volume going here. So asked him a little bit about the big men in passing. So let's take a listen to this quote from Coach Pope. Which one is it? This one. Coach, Andrew Stefaniak, Kentucky Wildcats on his side. So we know you like bigs who can pass the ball, and talked to Brandon Garrison during a meeting window a few months ago, and he said, hey, I think Amari and I are some of the better passers in college basketball last year. What have you seen from them so far in the summer and fall, and do you think they've lived up to that when it comes to passing the ball?
Yeah, I've been really excited about them. So we actually, I had the great fortune of coaching Ali Khalifa for a year last season. And I love when players teach you about the game and just by seeing what they can do and how far you can push them, how far you can take their talent and just stretch it, right? And how much you can utilize it. And so he actually changed the way that I think about processing the game a little bit, changed passing angles and changed passing alternatives and tracking the whole process of tracking as a big when you're working in any number of actions. And so I was super, last year was so fun learning. As a coach, it was so fun learning and trying to stretch, my players and myself. And so we kind of came into this year thinking, hey, so now we got to learn it, we got to see it, we got to watch it and really expand and explore it, but can we teach it? And that has been such a fun process this year. And these guys have picked it up I'm shocked with how fast they've picked up kind of this new way of decision making, as a decision maker for a five. It's actually super great. We knew they were talented passers coming in, but expanding their range of how they think about delivering the ball has been great, and they're making huge progress. I think we're going to love watching these bigs go to work. I really do. I think there's going to be times where it's just like, wow, I did not see that coming. I'm looking forward to that.
So, Carson, what are your thoughts about that quote? Because it's something we've talked a lot about, you and I. I mean, you want the big guys to be able to pass the ball and what Coach Pope wants to do. So what are your thoughts on what Coach Pope had to say about that question?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's big for the team because when you have Pope's offense, he wants to orchestrate with the big guy, right? That's his. It's kind of like the Denver Nuggets. We've talked about it before with Jokic and how he kind of orchestrates the offense. And if you all watched Pro Day, you saw that. You saw Amari Williams and Brandon Garrison making fantastic passes and even bringing the ball up sometimes and orchestrating the offense. And I know there was one in particular where Jackson Robinson ended up getting fouled, but he cut to the basket and Amari kind of like no look pass, bounced past him into the right hand side of a layup. But they fouled him. But it was a beautiful, beautiful pass. And I think it's huge having players 1 through 5 being able to pass the ball is always massive because you're always in basketball, you're always looking for the best shot. And ball movement's key in getting the best shot. So I think big men normally get knocked because they're not able to pass and shoot. But unlocking the passing and having 2 of the best passing bigs in the country is going to be absolutely monstrous for Kentucky.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's such an important part of this team, and they're so good at it. And it's going to be that's going to be very clear early into the season. I think how good these guys are at passing. It's one of those things we're talking about it like it's great. We're sitting here talking about it a lot, but soon we're going to get to see it. And it's going to be, and I think it's going to be better than we're even really anticipating.
And there was flashes in Pro Day. There's plays where you're like, holy cow, that's a really, really good pass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, there's no question there. Carson, let's move on to some of these player questions I got to ask people. My video, this feels like how life goes. I didn't even tell you this, Carson. Did I tell you that in the middle of my question to Jackson Robinson, my phone said you're out of storage and into the recording? No. And then I went and deleted like a ton of like Cal, because the only thing that's like long videos on my phone is like all my old Cal press conferences. So I like went and deleted those because like, I mean, who cares now? And so I'm like, okay, there should be plenty of room. I deleted like an hour of videotaping. And then I go and ask Ortega a question. Same thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I did it again and I was able to get some more. But so I'll talk about those before we get to the other ones. So I asked Jackson about, what stood out. Let's see. Did we talk about this yesterday, Carson, before our softball game? What stood out to you about the interview with Jackson Robinson during the Pro Day stream? Did there something that stood out to you? Do you remember that?
I don't think we discussed it. I don't really remember what he said.
Maybe it was just stuck out of my head. But so he was asked about what he wants to show the professional scouts, and what would you? Yeah,
yes, I remember this.
I would have expected him to say
defense.
I would have expected him to say, well, my ability to shoot the ball, my ability to get to the rim, my athleticism. No, he goes, I want to show the scouts that I can defend. I asked him about that quote that we heard during the Pro Day broadcast, and he responded and said, it's the feedback I got from the scouts. I need to get better defensively. And I love that because he says that's what he's been working on this offseason. So that stood out to me from Jackson Robinson. And then what I talked to him about
in that Pro Day interview, he's talking about how he wants to be the leader and how he's going to lead his guys and stuff. And I think that's key. I think him stepping up and being that lead guy because he already knows Pope's system. He already knows what Pope expects.
He's got to help.
So he's got to he can help these guys reach their full potential under Pope's scheme and what he wants to do.
Yeah, no question there. And then Ortega, I asked him a little bit about like with his skill set, what does he bring to the table? And what he had to say about that was he's gonna bring a little bit of everything. He talked about he needs to be able to shoot the ball. He needs to be able to get to the rim. But I mean, he talked a lot about how he's just gonna outwork the other team. He basically what he said was, I'm the dog of this team. Yes, that's funny. that's what he said. Yeah. Without saying I'm the dog of this team, he said I'm the dog of this team. Mm-hmm. And I just he was a fun interview. He was probably my favorite interview of the day. Ortega was.
It seems like every player on the team is a good person.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I agree with you. I'm not going to name names, but they were definitely last year, and I told you, Carson, there were some players who weren't It was really just one, and I'm not going to sit here and bash the guy because he doesn't need it. But there was a couple that I didn't. They weren't fun to be around or talk to, and obviously it's not Reed or Rob.
Well, that's kind of what I was alluding to with the team chemistry issues. I think there was a lot of me in the past couple years.
Yeah.
And now this is a we. This is Kentucky's team.
Sound like the pig in those commercials. Wee.
They're speaking French.
Yeah. So these guys are all great dudes. I mean, seriously, they're all great to talk to. They're great to interview. They're just great dudes. All of them. I love that coaching staff as well. But so let's get right into it. This is my favorite quote. This isn't one that's as crazy when it comes to this season of basketball, but it's still a fun quote. It's Kobe Bryant. Someone asked him about the cat trade to the Knicks, and I kind of piggybacked off that, and I said, hey, speaking of former Kentucky players in the league, is there anybody that you kind of play like? And this was his response. Speaking about Cat, is there a lot of great players have come through Kentucky, obviously. Is there a guy, whether mentality or play style wise, that's moved on to the NBA now, that you maybe kind of match your game after?
Definitely Devin Booker. Okay. He's my favorite player, and obviously he came from here as well. But I think we have a really similar skill set, and I love the things he does off the court and on the court. And I think he's a dog. At the end of the day, he's a great shooter. He does everything at a high level, but he's a dog on top of everything. Yeah, but one of the Knicks too.
So, yeah, I like that. Devin Booker. Kobe Bryant says he plays
I was going to say, that one's a lot more quiet. That one was quieter. He said Devin Booker.
Yeah, that one's quieter. I literally have a microphone. Like, that's why I left it in the car, this thing, and it worked. I sent you a video. I don't know. If anyone knows, if you know microphone.
And you recorded the whole press conference, didn't you? Just for you to find out the sound was not good enough.
Yeah, that was a little bit on me. We'll get into that later, but that one was on me. This one was not on me. There's a lot of people talking, but yeah, I mean, you can't hear it great there. But and then I guess we just won't. I'll just talk about these instead of playing them, Carson, because they're kind of quiet, and I'd rather just we discuss them. So, but I mean, that from Kobe Bryant, that's cool, and I think it's cool because we've talked about Coach Pope is kind of getting rid of the whole. We put players in the NBA, and he's worrying about the we hang banners thing, which is great, and I love that. But
well, I wouldn't say that. If this segment from Pro Day caught my eye when they were interviewing him at the very end of Pro Day, they were stating about how he was talking about Nazir Muhammad, who had played for UK. He's a GM in the league right now. He played in the Mark Pope was like he played in the league for 19 years. I think Nazir was a freshman when Mark Pope was maybe a senior or a junior. I'm not entirely sure. He didn't say, but he said that Coach Pitino had him on the line doing sprints, and just like we saw our team do this year. Yeah. And he had him on the line doing sprints, and you got to make your time for the team to stop running. And Nazir just couldn't make his time. And then finally Nazir laid out, and he laid out, and he dove, and everyone's like, oh, did he make it? He didn't make the time. Coach Pitino's back on the line. Nazir's crying his eyes out. And Pope's like, well, that's the reason why he was in the NBA for 19 years, because he went through all these things. And I'm trying to teach my players this. And not only will make you better right now, it'll make you ready for the NBA. So I think he's combining both of them and making it the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just everything. I want to root for Coach Pope more and more every single time I hear him speak or hear him talk or hear him. I don't know, man. It's just something.
No, every time he hooks you in when he speaks.
Yeah.
He's super smart. So the words he uses are crazy, and he's always super genuine too. You can tell he means everything he says.
A question that I asked Ainsley Almanor and Mario Williams is them being the two guys that came from smaller schools, Drexel and Farley Dickinson. And I asked them hey, a thing we hear about a lot is transfers coming in from the guys that aren't coming from Oklahoma, like Ortega, or West Virginia, Arizona, like Kerr, the guys coming from some of these smaller schools, like we just named with those two guys, you hear a lot. Will it adapt? And I said, I'm a believer. It's all college basketball. I just wanted to say, like, someone that said, I asked him, to someone that would say to you guys, hey, how will Amari Williams or how will Ainsley Almanor, adapt into the SEC? They both basically said the same thing of like, it's Amari was really serious about it more than Ainsley, in all honesty. So he was like, it's something I have a chip on my shoulder about. It's something I've heard. People are saying that. I was at Drexel. Is it going to compare to the SEC? Is it going to compare to this level of college basketball? I love that answer, man. I love that.
I like that
Because he's got something to prove. He says,
yeah, he's got something to prove.
He said, it's not that I was at Drexel, it's that I'm a damn good basketball player.
And that's your enforcer too.
Yeah.
So having your enforcer with the chip on his shoulder, I like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was really the bulk of it there. Carson, I know you want to talk a little bit of recruiting before we call it a day here. You got some recruiting nuggets for us?
Yeah, I also wanted to mention, I think for me, I wanted to talk a little bit about Pro Day because I think there was a key surprise for me. When I was watching it, I think Ainsley Almanor is going to be a big player for us.
Coach Pope talked a lot about him today. I think he's going to play a lot more than we think.
Mean, he surprised me. I knew he was good. He shocked me, honestly, because he looked really, really good. It was hard to find a shot where he didn't make. Him and Mr. Travis Perry, I think are going to play a lot more than people think. Yeah. Both of those guys don't really miss much. And when you don't miss much, you get to play more.
It's hard to keep you off the floor when you're making a lot of shots.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Coach Pope had a lot to say about Ainsley Almanor today. I'm with you. I think
he's a mismatch because you can't put a guard on him because he's 6'7", 240, so bully a guard. But you can't put a big guy on him because he'll go right past him.
Yeah. I actually asked him about that. I said, one of the memes of college basketball was Ainsley Almanor guarding Zach Edey as a 6'7" center versus a 7-foot, 4 center.
Yeah.
Then I said, but I mean, all kidding aside to that being kind of funny, what do you think, having played the 5, while he's at Farley against not the biggest school in the world, there's still a lot bigger 5s than 6'7" in that conference. So I asked him, how's that going to help adapting to the SEC, of saying, hey, you've played undersized in your position. And he talked about it. He said, yeah, it's something. I mean, I've played I played undersized at the center position pretty much my whole career. I think that's going to help him. He said it. He said, I think it's going to help me adjust to this new level of basketball. But it was funny. It was fun. I'll write an article about it if you want to check it out. But it was fun listening to him talk about Zach Edey. It was an interesting
foul merchant Zach Edey.
Yeah, the foul merchant Zach Edey. So anything else on Pro Day, Carson, or recruiting?
The one last thing on Pro Day, I think it's hilarious that Pope makes him play with a 12-second shot clock. Did you hear about that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people don't realize how many shots this team is going to take per game.
Yeah,
it's going to be outlandish. It's going to be super fun to watch.
Yeah,
the Cardiac Cats are back. We want to push the pace and kind of play like we did back when Rick was the coach.
Yeah, I mean, threes also lead to a lot of second chance points because they lead to a lot of long rebounds. And this team's just win, lose, or draw. This is gonna be a fun basketball team to watch. That's a great point from Pro Day.
A lot of likable guys, fun offense. Staff. Yeah, fun staff. I really like this team a lot.
Yeah. So tell us about Bundalo, Wilson, and Caden Lewis before we call it a day here, Grizz.
Yeah, so Nico Bundalo had scheduled a visit to UK for not this weekend, but the next, a couple days ago. But this morning he canceled that visit. And are you doing the night we met?
I am.
Is this the heartbreak?
I am not the only.
Yeah, that's your guy. That's your guy.
He's going to be a star wherever he goes. I told you I'm buying a Nico Bundalo jersey when he is a top 10 pick. So wherever he goes,
but the positive, I went with the negative news first. The positive news is that Pope visited Caleb Wilson at home this morning. Maybe that might have something to do with Nico canceling his visit today. Who knows? But it could. And then Caden Lewis is also visiting for Big Blue Madness for this
Mhm.
weekend, which is also his birthday. So that's pretty cool. Maybe we get a commitment this weekend from Lewis, and that can only help with Wilson. So that's exciting stuff.
I think that I wouldn't. We haven't heard anything that he's going to commit, Ken Lewis wise, when it comes to this weekend. But I wouldn't be one bit surprised if he committed. Not one bit surprised. So
saved us for the last visit, and it's Big Blue Madness. It's going to be nuts. It's his birthday.
Yeah,
it's going to be. I think I don't know if he'll announce his commitment after, but I think he might silently commit this weekend.
I could see it. I could definitely see that happening. The plan for Thursday, we're going to preview Big Blue Madness. I'm just so fired up, ladies and gentlemen, and I know Carson is. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll both be there for that. And then we will also preview the Vandy game, which just got a lot more interesting. So that will be Thursday's show. We'll break that
Louisville
all down.
lost to SMU.
Yes.
At home.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Just wanted to throw that in there.
Oh, what about we all need to shout out and say thank you to Mr. Carson Nash. You want to know why?
Why?
Want to know why the Volunteers lost on Saturday?
Oh, yes. Reverse jinx.
The reverse jinx. Wildcats today, lock of the week. Carson Nash, they're going to cover 13.5, and they lose. Eat that, Tennessee. Have fun. You lost.
The one time I bet on Tennessee, they get their asses kicked. That's awesome.
Don't hate it.
That's awesome.
That's kind of like I'd be fine losing money to watch Tennessee.
No, I was completely fine losing money.
$15, Tim. Sure. I don't care. I'd pay $50 to watch Tennessee lose right now or Louisville.
All those Vol fans freaking out. Nico's not the guy, it's just, it's awesome.
It's great.
It's awesome.
It's great stuff. So that is going to be Thursday's show. Going to be a fun one. So everyone be prepared for that. Oh, you know what we forgot to do? I don't even want to. I don't like.
Yeah, this is painful. Well, let me shout out the Center Colonels first for a big win on Saturday over Trinity. Great game. Goman played outstanding. He was on fire.
Former Lexington Catholic Knight.
Yes, and Jake had a good game. Blake had a good game. It was
Jake
a good
Nash,
time.
Starting elite offensive lineman for the Center Colonels. Just an absolute stud. I mean, that's no other way to describe him. But I don't even want to do this. Boff, freaking Boff won a fantasy game.
Boff is.
The good news is I play Boff this week, and when I beat him, the clown video will be back. So don't worry. He's not going to get away too easy. I mean,
he's not. Yeah, he hasn't escaped yet.
Yeah. What is it? Even a blind squirrel finds a nut here and there.
Yes, that's exactly.
That's what happened this week.
Yes,
I'm still predicting 1-13 or however many games it is. It's not. Yes, it's not going to be every. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut here and there. That's what happened this weekend. So
and Team Nash moved to 5-0.
Yeah. All right. We'll see y'all on Tuesday, on Thursday. Have a good day. Bye.
Team Nash moved to 5-0 and plays Team Gad, who was also 5-0.
I already told you game day is coming to Boff Stefaniak. It's not coming to Gad.
Oh, they're going to do FCS game this
Nash, not FCS. My team is banged up, and we're okay. All right. I've had enough. Carson's fantasy team's really good. Yay, who gives a crap? Subscribe, like, all that. Love y'all. We'll see you on Thursday. Carson Sucks at Fantasy. Have a great rest of your day.